Welcome to this week's Forex Forecast. We're going to take a look at a lot of markets, so stay tuned and watch to the end. All right, starting the forecast off with the US dollar index. Starting with the weekly chart here, you can clearly see we are clearly reacting off of this little base drop, selling area off of this supply zone here. This is an area I pointed out to members in the Discord group to warn them that we could see some downward pressure, and clearly we've seen price wick away from that supply area. And the big question now on the dollar, is price going to push down to daily demand at 103.512, or are we going to just push up? Obviously that's $1 million question. I think it is definitely possible we do retrace back down to this daily demand zone. We've had a beautiful move off of this, from this area, creating demand. There was a lot of trading in this area, so it's really not the greatest demand zone ever based off of that, but I do like that it took out proven supply and the move away was very, very good. So I think it is a demand zone we could see price react off of to the upside if we do push up. If you are looking for shorts in the dollar, this would be your profit target down to like 103.6, right around there. So I think we could push down to there. We are obviously going to have to monitor the lower time frames. If you look at a 4-hour chart, I would say we still have a 4-hour upward trend here. If we can really start to push down, break these lows here like that, then I think we're most likely probably going to break the trend line and be pushing down to that daily demand zone. So we're going to have to be monitoring this 4-hour chart as well. And if you look at a 1-hour chart, we actually have a 1-hour downtrend after we got this move off of this supply zone here. And this is a supply zone I called out in the daily market forecast video just yesterday. So a nice move off of that supply, created a new low, giving us that beautiful downward trend on the 1-hour chart. So we do have a demand zone down here at 104.10. We could see a small move off of this zone, but with the 1-hour downtrend, it is definitely like the first piece of evidence that we need to suggest that we could be pulling back to this daily demand zone, if that makes sense. Because the only way we can pull back down to a daily demand zone is if we have a 1-hour downtrend, right, and a 4-hour downtrend. So with that 1-hour downtrend formed, it is definitely the first phase of evidence to suggest we could be pulling back down to that daily demand zone. So we're going to be monitoring that 1-hour downtrend to see if we can continue it, we can remove this demand. All signs are really pointing to the downside here on the dollar. But like I said, it could be short-lived to the downside because we have that daily demand zone. So it'll be interesting to see, what takes place here in the DXY. All right, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. And real quick, if you guys are enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. All ad revenue goes to my local hospice. It is donated. So the more likes, the more views, and the more ad revenue to charity. So we'd appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button. Let's continue on. Looking at the euro here, the daily demand became in control again. It's tested once, twice. This is the third time now. So it is not the greatest zone to be trading from, but we have profit margin to the upside. So I don't blame you if you were looking for longs here in the euro the past week. But if you look at a 4-hour chart here, we have a very, very clean looking 4-hour downtrend. Yes, we have seen some bullish pressure here, but so for example, if you were zoomed in on your chart like this, right, you could be looking like this. Oh, okay, a lot of bullish pressure, we need to get in long. But when you start to really zoom out, you can see clearly, price is in a pretty good downtrend. If you remember from the last couple of weeks, we've got 2 beautiful short trades here on the euro. So now we are simply, with that daily demand in control, we could be looking for longs. But if you are a swing trader, which I personally am, I'm sure there was some day trading opportunities in here. But for swing trading, we need to see, this 4-hour downward trend line removed, hopefully leaving us with demand where we can look for longs off of. So that's what I'm going to be looking for here on the euro. If you are bearish, we do have some supply above at 1.08. You could wait for shorts up here if you are a swing trader, maybe get a day trade short off of that. But in the meantime, the 4-hour downtrend, we just have to monitor what takes place there. And we actually have a 1-hour supply zone in control. The supply zone was decent. We got somewhat of a move off of it. Not quite 3-to-1 or anything just yet. We push right back into the zone. So it's very tested once, 2, 3, 4 times now. So we definitely could break it. I think it's more than likely at this point based off of how many times it's been tested. So with that being said, if we can break that supply, any 1-hour demand there, we could look for longs in. It's just a little bit aggressive, right? because we'll most likely still have the overall 4-hour downtrend. So any longs here will be aggressive, but it would be your entry as we come off of the daily demand zone. So that's what I'm going to be looking for here on the euro if you are bullish, which I mean, I kind of am. I get the reason for looking for longs here in the euro. It'll be interesting to see what takes place at this 4-hour downward trend line as well as we look to approach it. On to the forecast for gold, XAUUSD. So we have a beautiful weekly uptrend here, top-down analysis. Couldn't really ask for a better uptrend than this. This is the all-time high up here on gold. So we are pretty discounted, from that all-time high in the context of this weekly uptrend. So looking for longs, definitely going to be good. And you guys know, been watching my forecast since, at least since December. I've been calling out this daily demand zone for so long. It is a beautiful drop base rally demand zone, basically picture perfect. Good, definitely just a solid, all around demand zone. We have kind of a little support area here, where it looks like traders potentially were stopped out and price, is currently rallying out of this area. I'm not surprised. Look at the move, from this zone, from this area. Really, really strong move. 2 pretty green days here on gold, so definitely looking to continuate the move to the upside here. I don't even know if that's a word, I just made it up. But what I am going to be looking for here, well, first of all, we removed this area here, and that got me a little excited. So I did actually enter in long as we got the pullback down here with a stop, pretty wide. But more of just building a position coming off of that daily demand zone. So on the 1-hour chart here, we have a 1-hour downtrend. You could just wait for the downtrend to be removed, the downward trend line, and look for longs off of demand as it's created there. That is definitely one option. For me personally, I think the 4-hour chart is a little bit more clear. And why do I say that? Well, we had proven demand removed by this supply at 2020, and the downward trend line is we're approaching that as well. So I'm hoping we can get some sort of basing here, creating a demand zone with that nice strong push up where we break not only the downward trend line, but also the supply zone as well. And then the 4-hour zone here, that would be our potential long trade. So this is what I'm looking for here on gold as we look to break, this downward trend line here and supply on gold. So with that daily demand zone in control, I am obviously looking for longs. If you are bearish, the daily demand zone could definitely fail. Obviously, we could be completely wrong. If you want to short, I'm personally not going to be doing this, but this would be your really only shorting opportunity at 2020 at that 4-hour supply. Obviously, it's a very, very strong supply zone. So if you want to short, that's really your only option. And look, you could be day trading short in this area. You could look for a little scalp on a lower time frame. I think that's actually fine, because I do think we will see somewhat of a reaction off the zone, but ultimately because that daily demand zone has come into control down here, I think we are most likely going to go to the upside, as well as that weekly trend is on our side. So I'm really going to be looking at this 4-hour chart here on gold this upcoming week to look to continue to add to my position as, again, we come off of this daily demand zone and this overall weekly trend. So gold definitely on the top of my watch list this week personally. All right, now on to the forecast for the USDJPY. Looking at the weekly chart here, we are approaching that not all-time high, but that high again on the USDJPY. Again, if we break this high, we'll have a pretty nice weekly uptrend here on the USDJPY. So we're obviously going to go to the lower time frames. I know the daily chart's not super low, but what I'm seeing so far, I pointed out this daily supply last week. I said we definitely could see a reaction off of it. Will we see price go all the way down? It's tricky. We're obviously going to have to monitor, what takes place on the dollar. But right now, we are currently just ping-ponging between supply and demand. You can clearly see a move off of the supply and then a move off of the demand, and we are currently back into the supply. And I mean, if you look at this green wick, we are currently wicking out of the supply again. So it is a tricky time to be trading right now. What is in control? Is it supply or is it demand, right? It is certainly really, really tricky. All I know is we have a pretty nice 4-hour uptrend, 4-hour demand zone being respected at this time at 149.69. So we could look for longs, but remember, if you're going to look for longs, you're really only trading with a 4-hour uptrend. So that means you want to most likely stick to like day trading time frames. It's just, it's definitely just what I try to, tell everybody is, if you're day trading, you want to stick to trading with trends on the 4-hour and the 1-hour chart. It's just part of it. as well as, you always want to find good zones. And on that topic of finding good zones, if you guys want to join us this Sunday for a Zoom meeting about supply and demand, trading analysis, and much more, check out the Diamond membership. We also have lifetime access. We have Sunday Zoom sessions, daily chart analysis, daily market breakdown videos, and as well as video lessons, homework, and all that good stuff. So check it out. Links in the description down below. We'd be happy to see all serious traders join the team. And as we look at the 1 hour chart here on the USDJPY, the loss of momentum is more clearly displayed here, where we had the supply, broke above the supply, created demand, and then we actually created supply. So if you are bullish the yen, what I'd be looking for now is the break of this 1 hour supply zone, and any 1 hour demand zone we could then look for longs off of like that. If you are bearish the USDJPY, the only shorting setup I see is there at 150.49. But for me personally, I'm not going to be trading this one simply based off of this daily chart and the fact that I don't know where this is going. We're just currently going between supply and demand, so I either want to see a break to the downside or a break to the upside before I make any trading decisions, at least, as a swing trader. All right, on to the GBPUSD, and let me know your thoughts on the pound. Let me know in the comments down below what you think is going to happen here on the pound. As we look at the daily chart, we are just so sideways here. I was calling this an uptrend, but clearly just going sideways back into this daily demand for that third test. So, favoring longs could be okay. I definitely understand that. If you look at a 1 hour chart here, clearly, breaking above some key areas here. So with that being said, we have clear profit margin up to 1.26 to the 1 hour supply. So with this momentum up, you could be trading that momentum to the upside. I think that would be okay. Currently getting some sort of pullback at this time. How deep will we pull back? That is kind of the question. That's what I want to see your comments down below, what you guys think will happen. I definitely think it's possible we do fill in that gap, like I said, and then you could potentially look for shorts up there if you are bearish at that 1 hour supply zone. If you look at a 4 hour chart, okay, we were ranging up here. Now we are kind of below the range. But to me, it is looking like we want to push back up to that range. So that's why I'm thinking we could, like I said, trade that 1 hour kind of momentum to the upside with very, very clear profit target. And the bonus is the fact that we have a daily demand zone in control. But the concern is that the daily demand is pretty tested. But with the daily demand in control, I think favoring longs, probably your best bet with, like I said, clear profit margin on the 1 hour chart. So let me know your thoughts on the pound. All right, on to the USDCAD forecast. So looking at the daily chart first, we have that daily supply in control. Every time we approach it, we pretty much push a little bit higher and then drop, a little bit higher than drop. So, are we going to push in a little bit higher and drop again? I don't know. It's difficult to tell what's going to take place. All I know is that daily supply is in control. On the 4 hour chart, we have a very, very nice 4 hour uptrend. But we are kind of low, if you just look at it like a channel here, we are low in the channel. So yes, we could see some moves up, but at this point, it is a very, very obvious looking channel, in my opinion. It's a very obvious trend line as well. So we could see some downward pressure here. If you look at a 1 hour chart, we do have this 1 hour demand at 1.345. Now guys, this is a extremely obvious area. Why? Well, because look at this crazy move. So when we have a crazy move like that, it catches a lot of eyes, and usually people are going to look at the basing before that. That's just typically what happens. So could we see move off this zone? Yeah, I think we could. But remember that daily supply is in control from above, so we could see some downward pressure here. So if you are bullish USDCAD, this would be your area to look for longs at 1.345. Now, do I think we're going to get a huge move off of it? Probably not. We could get a small move. With that being said, you could be on day trading timeframes and narrowing down your entry so that you can turn, a small move like this into like a 3-to-1 trade. Rather than just taking the entire zone, right? Because who knows if we're going to get that move all the way up to take profit. A little bit difficult. But with that daily supply and control, you could short up here in this area. I think that's fine. But me personally, what I want to see is the removal of this demand. And then any 1 hour supply, we could look for shorts there. But in the meantime, we kind of have to go with that daily supply being in control, as we've clearly seen reactions off of it multiple times. So going to be monitoring this 4 hour upper trend line and this 1 hour demand to see what takes place. All right, onto the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. Onto the daily chart here first. There's really not much for demand down below here. Yeah, there is some, areas of buying, that is for sure. But as far as how I do my chain analysis, there's not much demand down below. So there's not much to really stop price. But if you look, we have this supply that was created because it removed demand. Nice move away from this area at 0.66. I do think, price could be attracted to that area. Whether it will hold or not, that is, up for another discussion. I do think we will see a hold off of that supply zone if we do get there. I'm just saying that this supply zone could kind of act like a magnet if we do start to get some more bullish price action on the lower time frame. So just wanted to point that out. And if you look at a 4-hour chart here, we had a very nice downward trend here, and we currently actually broke the trend line, so which actually left us with demand down below at 0.64. So we could see a move off of that demand zone down there, but remember, this demand zone is not located inside of a higher time frame, so it is definitely a high risk trade. But with momentum currently being up on the 4-hour chart with the downward trend lines being removed, we could see continuation move to the upside to at least 4-hour supply at 0.658. Now on the 1-hour chart, momentum is definitely up, I would say. The next thing I'm going to be looking for, actually that was removed, so I actually would in fact call this a 1-hour uptrend at this point, just because we broke above this area here. So I think looking for longs now on day trading timeframes could definitely be okay on the Aussie, as we currently just broke the downward trend line on the 4-hour chart. Yes, you could get stopped out as we pull back down to 4-hour demand, but that's fine. We can then look for longs down there if you want. And if you are bearish, the only area I'm looking for shorts that is close is up here, like I said, at 0.65 at that 4-hour supply. So that's really the only area I would look for shorts, as we've broken this downward trend line on the 4-hour chart. That's definitely a bullish sign. And like I said, we could be potentially setting up for that move to pull back up to daily supply. On to the USDCHF. This is kind of a tricky chart, and I'm going to explain why. Well, first, we have a weekly downward trend line, which is great. I prefer to trade with a trend. It's a beautiful downward trend. The problem is we're right at the trend line at this point with clear supply above, where we could easily spike to supply and then off of it. So that is definitely a tricky situation, and I want to be shorting based on the weekly supply. But when we go down each time frame on the daily chart, we had the downward trend line, broke the downward trend line, created demand down below at 0.86. And not only that, we're just in the middle between supply and demand on the daily chart. So where is price going based off of this? Really, who knows? So it is very, very tricky. All I know is we have supply and demand here, and we are in the middle. And these two areas could be treated as like profit targets. With that being said, how do we trade this one? Well, we have trends on the 4-hour chart. So I think we need to pretty much go off of that. We do have demand in control. We still could push down to here at 0.87 and react to the upside. But with this 4-hour trend being up, I think we actually have to favor longs. And like I said, how do we decide where to trade based on the daily chart? Well, the 4-hour trend is telling us I think we need to look for longs. If we break this demand zone, then I think we could look for shorts. But as long as this trend is holding, I think looking for longs on the USD Swiss is most likely going to be the best decision to make, although it is definitely tricky based on the weekly chart and the daily chart. So anytime a zone is removed in the 4-hour chart, we have to really take that pretty seriously here on the USD Swiss. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil, onto the daily chart. Last week I pointed out this daily supply. We currently, we pushed back up into it, very deep tested at this point. I personally think we will be spiking above all of this area here. Will we continue to go up from here? I don't know. It's kind of tricky, but I think we will most likely be spiking above there on oil. And why do I think that? Well, on the 4-hour chart, we have demand zones being respected, and on the 1-hour chart, demand zones being respected as well. So demand is clearly being respected. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So I think looking for longs is going to be our best bet. Anytime this 1-hour supply is removed, any 1-hour demand there, we could look for longs off of that. Since I can't call out this trade to you guys because it's already taken place. That is the next step here on crude oil that we could be looking for. If you are a day trader, what I would want to see is this high removed up here. Once that high is removed, we'll have a 4-hour uptrend and day trading becomes even higher odds. So that's what I would be looking for here on crude oil. If we pull back down to 74.25, I think that's a decent area to look for potential longs as well at that area of demand. So crude oil, definitely bullish here. You know, unfortunately, there's not really a good daily trend or anything to go off of, but based on what I'm seeing, I think we have, you know, a lot of traders short up here, and I think we could see price kind of blast through that area. So I think on day trading timeframes for now, crude oil is definitely going to be decent to potentially look to trade long, and I'm going to be waiting to see that high removed as well. Continue my bullish bias here on crude oil. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.